Contagious optimism. Optimism is super important to have, and so I'm trying to just continue to pour it into people.
Again, discipline it's a person saying, I want this, and I'm gonna do and sacrifice whatever it takes to get that, and understanding their process to get there. The hardest part, I know the hardest part is, as you continue to grow, it's gonna get noisy, right? And people are gonna start to pull you in different directions. And again, it's not necessarily saying you're gonna remove the stress, but you're gonna manage it way better when you have a lot of clarity. Honestly, like, you can't beat sleep, you can't beat rest. Your body needs it. So when you had those high strains, it was just your central nervous system being worked, right? Be confident, but don't be egotistical. Don't let your ego take over. Be confident though, right? Like, you're here for a reason, but like, don't let your ego block out, information that's consistently hitting you over the head.
Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. Today, I have Ben Kenyon in the house with me. Ben is a veteran NBA performance coach, speaker, and author. Ben is a veteran NBA performance coach who spent the last 11 seasons working in the league with the world's best athletes and coaches. He most recently was a director of performance for the Philadelphia 76ers. Prior to that, Ben was a performance coach for the Portland Trail Blazers for 7 years. Throughout his 20-year career, Ben has learned how to focus, navigate, perform, and grow professionally, personally, in high-stress environments. These are the same principles he used to complete 3 half marathons, 2 Olympic distance triathlons, 1 marathon, and multiple half marathons. As the ultimate hype man, he values boldness and outrageous optimism. Ben Kenyon, welcome to the show.
Come on, Kristy.
There you are. There you are. I love it.
Thank you
I
for having
love
me
it.
on. Bringing energy right from the beginning. Come on.
Damn, look at you. Look at you. I don't even think I've seen this side of you, but like, look what happened to me. I love this. You just elevated me.
Contagious optimism. Optimism is super important to have, and so I'm trying to just continue to pour it into people. And again, we connected through Ben Newman, and so I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited to know you and to be on this journey of friendship and to learn more about you and how I can support you. And you've already supported me in so many ways. So I appreciate you, my friend. I know we're aligned in so many ways, and we're going to talk about a few of those things here a little bit later. But I want to know, when did you know that when did you tap into and know that you had a passion for helping people unlock their greatness? Was it always there?
You know what? Early on in my life, I knew I was passionate about specific things. Like, when I was 13 years old, I knew I wanted to either coach or play basketball or play
Mm.
professional basketball. And so at that stage, I knew I wanted to support somebody, right? I was always being poured into from my parents, from my family, from my mentors. And I knew I loved that energy to be able to actually give back. And so maybe early on when I was 13, that's kind of when it started. And then fast forward, I knew I wanted to stay around the game right around my sophomore, junior year of college, playing basketball. I was like, you know what? I don't want to play pro, but I
Mm.
want to stay around the game as much as possible. And I love being in the weight room. So let's just marry the two and figure out what that job looks like. And fast forward to now, I've always wanted to work with the best and also be the best myself. So I just stayed focused on, like, how do I continue to improve? And honestly, the goal from 13 to now has never changed. Just making sure that I'm focused on what's in my hand in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I feel like a lot of people are searching for their purpose or what they should do, and what I'm hearing from you is that, like, it was just a feeling. Like, when you were in certain spaces, you were tapped into to a feeling of how you felt in those moments of helping people and being around high performers. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and very accurate. And I would say I was very blessed with opportunities to recognize that, right? So I'm gonna give a lot of credit to my mom,
Oh.
Peggy Drinker. She is an amazing human being. She kept me in things that I enjoyed. So the
Yes.
moment that I was just like, you know what, I kind of like that, she signed me up for whatever activity and was just like, let's go get it, right? And so over time, I realized, like, oh shoot, I need to continue to chase the things that feel good, right? And make sure that at one point, I'm like, and you know what, this might not be feasible, for the foreseeable future, but let me just continue to do it just so I can work on that muscle. right? That
Yeah.
intuition muscle that allows me to now stay in a space that I think is carved out for me.
And what a great gift she gave to you because I know, later on with reading your book, you tell people to find what they're passionate about and the money will come.
Yep, it
And
flows every time.
yeah, and it's my group coaching program for women, it's it's crazy, right? But unleashing somebody, I'm helping them tap into who they are. And it was because I had to do it for myself, right? I was chasing financial freedom, which I learned so much along the way, but 15 years later, I kinda woke up and went, "Whoa." And it took a long time to realize that I could land in this space of doing something that I love and make even more money.
Yeah.
But most of us don't realize that. So for the fact that your mom, in a way, helped you realize that and kept you signed up is so cool.
Yeah, and it's a value of understanding like hard work and hustle, right? You might not understand it right at the beginning, but like you got to keep chipping away at it. Super short story, funny story. She took me to go play baseball.
Huh.
I think I was on the baseball field for 15 minutes. I just walked, but I was like, this ain't it. I would run around 11, 12, and it was so funny because I went out, they sent me out to like center field or whatever, and I was just like,
You're bored.
yeah, what do I do with standing there? This isn't it. And no knock on baseball, but it just wasn't my thing, right? And so I
Yeah.
felt that immediately. And I was like, hey, man, like, can we just go drive around or something? I know you want to occupy some time, but I'd rather not be here right now. So, again, continuing to stick with that and just saying, like, you know what, this room is for me. Let me just settle in and understand that there's going to be some obstacles, some challenges, some things I got to learn. But that's growth, that's friction. That's what we need to continue to climb, and grow in this you.
Yeah, absolutely. Where is Miss Peggy these days?
Peggy lives in North Carolina, Elizabeth City, North Carolina.
What?
Yeah, so I'm from Jersey originally,
Yeah.
but she moved out there, I don't know how long ago, a while ago, plus 10 plus years ago to go take care of my grandmother. And her and my aunt had like literally lived near each other their entire lives. And so her and my aunt live out there. We've got some family land out there as well. So they're just hanging out in North Carolina, laying
Yeah.
low.
Yeah, well, good. And you road trip to North Carolina. Well, I can see from your background that you had some really amazing grandfathers in your life as well. Do you feel were they did they help shape the helper's high in you and yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they did, man. They led by example. So one grandfather was a pastor. I'll say he's more on a global level. He housed refugees from across the world, which was super super cool and awesome. Our Thanksgivings were always very diverse with ethnicity and all the different things that we had going on. And then my other grandfather, who was actually based out of North Carolina, he was very local, but like very community driven. And
Mhm.
he was also blind, right? So he still figured out ways to like impact people and
I couldn't see it all.
couldn't see it all. Wild story how he kind of got there, but he, both of them were very passionate about what they did in serving others. My on my dad's side, that was the global grandfather. He always would speak to me and say, "Hey, you should be a pastor." And I said, "You know what? Like maybe that's not my thing, but like performance, right? Being a pastor of
Mhm.
performance, I guess, might be the avenue just because I'm super passionate about, this specific thing and helping people grow, and
Mhm.
leading people that way." And then my other grandfather, he had the entrepreneur in him. My mom told
Mhm.
me a cool story about his transitions in life where he started off as like a rubbish removal from houses. That was like his first company that he had. And then he slowly started to go blind. And he transitioned from that to being a massage therapist because he still wanted to serve people. Right. And then he did that for about 10 years and then eventually landed on being a pastor, which, I think that's when he fully went blind. But he was such an inspiring person that it put me in a position to be like, dude, this guy's blind, figured out how to start a business, serving people early, transitioned, learned massage therapy when he was blind, and then transitioned from that and still serve people well. So again, continuing to just always look at those examples and just thinking, all right, how can I continue to dig deep and understand my lineage and how I can kind of carry that on through what I do today is always been the goal. So again, I'm so grateful for my grandfathers.
Yeah, man, it's in your veins. It's in your and just his story, the fact that he transitioned. And it's
Yeah.
one thing to start that way, but to know what it's like to see and then not see.
Oh, it was wild. It was a wild moment. My mom told me that story, because I never knew it, and she was just saying like along the way he had us as supporters, right? And I think that was a huge part of hearing is just like you're not always going to be by yourself, right? You're not always going to be in this isolation. It's a tough thing. Again, going blind is not something that people want in their lives, but he had family close. He had my grandmother, awesome wife that figured out ways to support him.
Man.
And again, they transitioned into something that allowed him to still make the impact he needed to make. And then again, by the time he passed away, he did, close to everything that he wanted to do. And then figured out ways to just continue to pour into family too.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a role model. You say that success does not happen by accident. And one of the things that I love having conversations with athletes and with coaches because there's no opportunity to fudge. Like you either have the receipts and you have the results or you don't.
Yeah.
And I find that more than anybody, y'all get down to the truth because you can't get better if you don't get really real with yourself and what the truth is. So I could talk to you for hours and I'm so happy that you're in my life. And in this world of coaching and speaking, I see a lot of posers and I gravitate to the athletes or the ones that are in sports performance because it's like you just freaking can't. Like you can't make them better. Like either those numbers are real or they're not. So can you dive in? I want to talk for the rest of this conversation about high performance and what it is. What's the secret to high performance? What do you see? What do you do?
So the number one thing is I get grounded into like my core values, right? So what's most important to me, right? And working in the NBA over the last 11 years, it was saying like I want to be able to serve these athletes well and put
Mm,
them in positions to set their families up to be with generational wealth, have all the accolades that they want to be able to get. Like I want to help them be available for all the opportunities that they're going to get. Right. So that was a big, big bucket for me. And focusing on that allowed me to now refine my process working with an athlete and just saying, all right, what does this person specifically need? Right. Going from the Dame Lillards to a Joel Embiid to a Tyrese Maxey, right? Each person needed something specific for what they needed to do.
mhm,
Sometimes outside of the X's and O's of training, it was just some sort of encouragement. Sometimes it was just
mhm,
being there, being a presence, right? Just because a lot of the times for those guys, they don't have spaces where they can share openly, right? And be themselves just because they have the spotlight on them. And so being able to now say, hey, like, this is a super safe space that you can actually pour into whatever it is that you need to pour into or share with whatever it is that you need to share. I just know that the system is if I lean to what's most important to me, more than likely they'll lean into what's most important to them, right? And they'll stay
mhm.
focused on that as well. So that's like a huge step one.
Yeah.
Step two is routines. It's so funny. People people look at me when I like throw training videos on IG, like you're always working out. I'm like, well, just to let you know, if it's like telling a basketball player, you're always playing basketball. Like you're telling that Hall of Famer, like you're always like, no, 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 like this is my thing,
Yeah.
right? I
Mhm.
have to figure out how to continue to pour into that because this is my thing, right? So
Yeah.
figuring out a routine that works best for you, because again, if fitness and well-being is my core value and pouring into it, I have to figure out routines that are going to actually allow me to check that box on a day-to-day basis. Again, because I know that overflow will pour into the guys that I'm working with, right? So now helping
Mhm,
them get their routines together and helping them figure out like, all right, what does rest and recovery look like? What does
mhm,
your workout day or what does your game day workout look like? What does your off day workout look like? What does your summer workout look like? Right?
mhm,
What are other things that you need holistically to continue to improve? Right? So, as a nutrition, do we need to do a blood panel so we can learn about the anti-inflammatory foods versus inflammatory foods? Do we need to sit you down with a therapist because we know for a fact that you might have some mental obstacles that I can talk you through, but let's actually push that out to somebody that's like an expert at that. right?
Mhm.
Do we need a chef at home, right? Let's figure out what's necessary so that you can get to this routine, because this is a contract year. If you get first team All NBA, you get an extra 20 million bucks.
Mm.
You get first team All NBA, you now get to, maybe this is your third or fourth. Now you're in that category of Hall of Famer, right? Now you're looking at basketball as an opportunity to really impact not just your family, but all the people across the world that's really like watching you for inspiration, right? So again, being able to pour into that goes back to like what's most important to me, um, making sure that those core values are aligned, and then figuring out their core values and just figuring out routines that are going to allow them to continue to pour into it. And then the last piece is just results, like you
Mhm.
brought up earlier. If you don't know how to produce, like I would say to people listening, like figure out what producing a result looks like for you, and then just try to do that every day, right? So for basketball players, it was just making shots, right? Being able to make certain shots, or specific basketball players, it was being able to make shots, right? Everybody had a different role on the team. But the stars, it was just like, you need to be able to average 35 points, throughout the season, maybe 38, 40 when it came to playoff time. So the things that you needed to do was go get the extra shots. If you're making 95 out of 100 threes at the end of practice, how do we get that to go from 95 to 98? Why? Because there's going to be one big shot that you probably get to win a game for us with 4 seconds left on the clock, with in another arena, last game of the season, for us to now go to the next round to put you in this category of, the elite Hall of Famers. And again, it's saying, I know that that's a goal of theirs. Sweet. What do I need to continue to focus on so that when they come into my space, when I start to work with them, it's super seamless, it's effortless, and it
Mm.
allows them to stay dialed in on their stuff. So again, all those things, they always go back to what's most important to you, and understanding, all right, here's the system that I need to have to attack this. And I think that's the thing that separates people from being like, just an average person to like a legit high performer that is actually getting things done on a consistent basis. Just being able to execute that, time after time after time. It's not necessarily saying like, I saw something new today, I got to change it up. It's like, no, 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 no. Here's my system, that I know for a fact works. Then I'll add to it maybe 1% over time, but I'm only going to add things that I know are necessary.
Yeah.
And hopefully that just moves the needle 1%. Again, I said you go from 95, making 95 out of 100, to making 98 out of 100, like, or even 96, 97. Like, that's a big jump, especially when it comes to game day and being able to execute when the pressure is on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how important on a scale of 1 to 10 is discipline and consistency?
Oh, it's huge. Again, discipline it's a person saying, I want this, and I'm going to do and sacrifice whatever it takes to get that, and understanding their process to get there. Uh,
Mhm.
I've seen I've seen certain rookies go from, having a decent amount of money, compared to other NBA players, to making 40 million a year, right? And their discipline, it only was magnified as they got closer to that big jump, right? So
Mhm.
typically in year three, year four, for like that superstar, they go from making that, the rookie minimum to like the massive amount of money. It's because they knew like, all right, that's the goal. How do I continue to focus in, trim the fat, and stay
Yeah.
focused on, the goal that I have set out for myself? And again, the discipline comes in. And then what was the second one? You said
Oh,
discipline
consistency.
and consistency. Yeah. And just being able to say, all right, like, I'm going to put the blinders up.
Yeah.
And again, blinders look different for everybody. I haven't talked about like off the court stuff, but
Mhm.
like trying to actually stay out of harm's way, in a
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
of having good family around, right? And family doesn't mean like blood relatives. Sometimes it's just like, is
Mhm.
there a good person around you that can just help you navigate all
Yeah.
the things that you need to navigate as a young person, right? And help you sometimes just stay inside. I think,
Mhm.
some of the best times that I've ever had was when we were just at people's houses, sitting down in a safe space, being
Yeah.
able to just be oneself. And I think that's the part that actually breeds way more discipline, because now you go back out and you can go execute all these different things without this extra noise.
Mhm.
I think the hardest part, I know the hardest part is as you continue to grow, it's going to get noisy, right? And people are going to start to pull you in different directions. And you can't forget what got you to that place. And a lot of people that you see fall off, um, or have like little blips on their journey, typically they forgot what got them to that space. And I'm not saying that they aren't disciplined. It's just when people start to kind of tug at you, you have to have the focus to be able to say like, no, like I can't do that during this season. Why? Because it's a core value of mine to stay focused on attaining this goal. And then maybe during the summertime, there's a month, of fun that you can have, but you really do have to stay focused because it is a lottery ticket,
Yeah. Yeah.
not just for the players, even for the coaches. It's a
Mhm.
lottery ticket because you get an opportunity to do things and see things that, normal people won't be able to actually see. Like it's a very small percentage of people all around, again, not just players, coaches as well, that even get the chance to participate in a league like that. And so when you get handed that lottery ticket, you have to really cherish it.
Yeah. And so transferable in life too, like just having the boundaries and saying no and knowing and you said something earlier that like it really landed with me is just people saying like, "Oh, you always play basketball," or you're always working, Kristy, you're always this, or you well, I like to. Like I like it. And if you're gonna get good, you have to practice. You have to be doing the reps. But it pulls everybody out of the game though, no matter where you are in life is this pressure. But then when you get around people like you that be like, "Good job, Kristy," like
Yes.
right, right, make sure I know you're gonna work this weekend, but make sure that you get your workout in, make sure you get some good sleep, like, that's the encouragement that you would give me versus somebody saying like, "Well, why don't you ever drink? Like, why do you have to go home? Why do you get up so early?" And that stuff can really, that really messed with my head for a long time.
If you're like most overachievers, you're probably already thinking about 2025 and how you're going to level up even more, unleash your full potential, and reach your goals. Well, don't worry, I got you covered. I've gathered some of the most successful people in the world in both life and business who also happen to be my friends. Bradley, Ben Newman, Emily Ford, Amberly Lago, myself, and 15 other experts are ready to pour into you as you launch into 2025 stronger than ever. Join us for a free 4-day online event where we will share proven systems and skills to elevate your mindset, drive action, and unleash your full potential. Go to www.successunleashsummit.com to register. Link is in the show notes. I'll see you there.
And there's a difference
Yeah,
between elite and just like good people. There's good people out there in the world. There's that good
yeah,
person that like they
yeah,
mean well, right?
yeah,
And then there's like that elite, outstanding crew that's just like, I get it. I
yeah,
see you. Do you need support?
yeah,
Can I support you? If you need to take the superhero cape off for a little bit, like here's a place you could go to do that and feel good and reset.
yeah.
There's definitely a difference, and I think that's us setting up boundaries. I talk about boundaries and barriers a lot. Boundaries and barriers, and
Mm.
barriers
What's
for
the
me.
difference?
So the boundaries is just like, hey man, this is just I have to let you know because I care about you, and I want you to know like every time you ask me to drink, it just doesn't feel great, and we shouldn't go down that path. I think the barrier that gets put up is now me sharing, like, "Hey, man, I'm doing a High Rocks event next week, and or next month, and I'm like dialed in on my training. You want to join in?" Right? That's a barrier for me because it's now saying, "I still want to hang out with you, but like, you gonna have to get over this hurdle of thinking fitness is just for or thinking this style of fitness is just for a certain type of person, right?
Mhm,
This is how I'm like living life now. This is how I'm having fun, right? It's no
mhm.
longer stepping into that happy hour. It's no longer stepping into Thursday, Friday drinks, right? That's just not a thing for me anymore. And again, if that's not for you, sweet. But there's a barrier that you're going to have to get over to kind of participate in this season of life.
Mm.
It- there's people on the inside already, right? Like you've got friends and family that have kind of seen you grow, but you start to set those boundaries and let them know, like, hey, that's not a thing anymore. I still love you. But like every time you harp on that, it makes it easier and easier for me to kind of just go over in this direction.
Mhm.
And then again, the new barrier is just, hey, if you're trying to be in it, jump over this freaking hurdle, work out with me. And again, you don't have to do it at my pace, but like this is something I'm really focused on because I know it can help me in other areas of life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I've never heard it put that way. When did you realize how important core values are?
Oh man. I would say probably my first or second year in the NBA, it really stood out to me because going from being an intern, sleeping on the floor, to now working with some of the best athletes in the world with the Portland Trailblazers, I was like, man, like how the heck did I like get here? Like what put me in this space? You know, what was different from me than anybody else? And I started to kind of look at all the different things that I was focused on. Again, my family, my faith, being grateful, extremely passionate, and hard work. You know, were the values that really helped me get to that space early on. And my first or second year, I kind of had a couple hiccups of just like, all right, I can't live the old lifestyle of where I was when I lived in DC as the head strength coach at GW. Have to live a different lifestyle. So a new set of core values had to come in, right? And I really had to focus in on like what this environment was trying to teach me. And so at that point, I really embraced gratitude because again, I had to make sure that, you know, I was showing all the people around me that I was grateful for the opportunities to learn from them. And then hard work, it was more about being smarter than working harder, just because the NBA is set up where you don't have as many breaks as you think, right? Again, a lot of people just see the games go on and off, on and off. But behind the scenes, we're practicing all the time. And you get a handful of days off, depending on what team you're on. And in that moment, I knew core values. Rest was a value that I had to figure out and learn, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't a
Hard one.
thing before, right? I could go work out, do all the things and kind of still be happy, go lucky. But working in the NBA, if you did not maximize your rest, because you only had a small window of it, it definitely affected you, you know, 15, 20 days later.
Yeah, there were so many things when I listened to your book that I was like, man, we were just so aligned. Sleep was you talk about sleep a lot. You know, you mention it a lot, and I also love how you talked in there too about not just giving yourself grace and like if you got off track to come back on track and
I've
um
seen so
and
many
don't
people.
overdo it, right? So like if you missed a few workouts, like don't go in and crush it. Like
Yeah, well, because I've seen so many people like going like down this road of like, oh, I'm overdoing it. Let me relax for a second. And then they freak out when they relax and like, oh, I got to get back on track. It's like, no, 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 no. Your body remembers.
yeah.
Just like be kind and know that like the slow builds actually going to produce longevity, right? It's a marathon. We're trying to actually play the long game versus just have this white noise moment that, again, it's super fun to be able to like feel great in that moment. But like, let's do that a couple more times just because if I can do that a couple more times and slowly grow, eventually I end up on top of a mountain that, you know, I've been able to now dominate and have a process that I can want to repeat versus like, I don't know if I want to do that again because I was burnt out after doing that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely that discipline and consistency in the same direction every single day, me having a sales background, it's like, okay, well, what are the highest paying activities, and did you do them? I
Mm.
mean, it's like it's either, you can have a rookie year based off of somebody else's territory and what they did last year, or the market pull, or whatever else happened, but
Mhm.
these people that absolutely kill themselves and no matter what it is to get where they're going, now their body and their nervous system thinks that that's what they have to do. It's like, no, let's just slow this down. What are the 4 or 5 things? And I love that is the definition of maintaining high performance. But there's another piece that you talk about a lot, and it's managing the stress. And that's easier said than done because, I'm going through some things myself, and it's like, it's not there's only a few people that will understand. It's like, "Oh, it's a good problem to have." It's still freaking stress.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Stress and
still
stress.
stress, and it's gonna be there. So, what is your advice to stress and on this climb to high performance and maintaining high performance?
Mhm.
How do you manage stress?
Yeah. So I try to I focus on the exercises or the tools I can use to minimize it during stressful stretches. So knowing going back to like an NBA schedule, you can look ahead and say, all right, I'm going to be traveling for the next 21 days out of 30, right? Or 31 days out of this month. Where can I go sit down and just stretch? my body?
Mhm.
Where can I go sit down and just journal? Where can I go sit down and meditate? Where can I go find really good food? Where can I go find a group fitness class of people that I may know or may not know, but like they are fired up and that energy is going to pour into me. Why does I need to make it through this stretch? And it's going to be stressful. I just have to lean into that part, like knowing it's going to be a stressful moment. Um, there's the other side on day 19 of the month. There's a window of time where this won't actually be here anymore, but I have to focus in for these next 2 weeks. So let me be very intentional. I think we get very intentional about, like you said earlier, about the sales calls and focusing on that. Now the goal is to set up like a point system to now rest, right? So maybe it's like 1 point if you journal for 20 minutes. Maybe it's
Mhm.
another point if you meditate for 20 minutes, right? Maybe it's another point if you just send out 3 or 4 texts to some friends that you know are like innately positive. Send
Mhm.
something to them because you know you're going to get something back that helps you stay dialed in.
Yeah.
I'm a big spiritual, I love God. So maybe it's another point if I sit down and just read the Bible for a quick 5 minutes or I pray,
Mhm.
right? And then maybe with 3 points, it's now saying, all right, can I do something for 20 minutes or more? But again, scheduling that in and being very intentional and blocking that off and saying like, this is my time, right? And this is where the barriers come in. If people are like, hey, I want to join, I want to hang out, I want to catch up. Sweet. I'm gonna go hit this sauna for about 30 minutes. Do you want to come sit down in this sauna? Because if not, I can't do it.
Mhm.
Right. Like this is something I have to do because it helps me de-stress. And
Yeah.
then the last piece is just saying for 5 points, set something up for 1 day to 3 days, right? Be very intentional about it, right? Because again, we have goals that we always are focused on attacking.
Mhm.
Let's flip it and say, all right, here we've got some rest goals that I want to attack and just sit down, chill out, relax for a little bit. And again, it's not necessarily saying you're going to remove the stress, but you're going to manage it way better when you have a lot of clarity. And that's where I found a lot of my wins is just saying, all right, I'm going to go into this stressful environment with a lot more clarity, focused on my core values of like what I actually need to pour into to get this thing done to reach, said goal. Because the stress isn't going to go anywhere. We actually need the stress to grow. But and if you're the high performer, like, you say you are, you're really going to want to turn up when
Yeah.
you go, right? So understanding that like this is a time to refuel, refocus. And now when you go back in there, if you had 10 to 20 calls you had to do that day, you may mess around and do 30, right? Because you're just flowing, you're feeling great, right? And so again, just being more aware of what that looks like on the other side of work, what that balance look like. And I always tell people, try to go get 50 points a month. If you can
Mhm.
go get 50 points a month, like, man, like you're really being intentional, right? Like again, when I look at our players, when they drop 50 in the game, like you got to think about all the stuff they did to get to that place to drop 50 points efficiently, right? Maybe shot 20 shots that day, right? To be able to get that, they did all this work that wasn't just about shots. It was about allowing their body to be in a space that they felt so good that every shot that they took was just going in, right? And so again, being able to set yourself up to go get 50 a month, I think is a great place to start. But keeping it super simple, 20 minutes or less, 1 point, 20 minutes, 24 hours is about 3 points. And then 1 to 3 days is about five.
You know your audience, when you were talking about points, I was already going like, "Okay, well, what do I win? How many points do I need?" Right.
Right. And if you got the right friend like me, you call me up and I'm sending some. Send
Yeah.
some Amazon. Hey, I'm gonna clap it up now. I'm gonna bring the energy. You go with this energy.
I mean, like, "Dude, I got 5 today. I got 5 today. Acknowledge me, please." Like, that was where my mind was going, like, "Okay, well, how many's good in a day? How many's excellent in a day?" Like,
Yep.
you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You
It's
didn't
just
land here, but,
true.
what I'm hearing from you also is that you plan for the stressful times.
Yep.
Is it fair to say, though, that this is built into the routine? Because if you can't go through those stressful times also if this is not a piece of it, this is not a part of your routine, is that fair to say that it's not just for stressful, it's not just looking ahead and putting that in during those times, it's every day?
Yep. That's where consistency comes in, right? That's where legendary work comes into play, right? Now a person look at you and just like, man, like like, look at this person. They're always doing said thing, regardless of what's happening around them, right? Because the storms are coming.
Yeah,
I talk
always
about
there.
that a lot in the book. Is just like those are your friction moments, right?
Mm.
It's there to test you. Like, let's see if you actually got over said thing. Let's see if you've improved. Because if you have improved on the other side of this storm, here's an amazing opportunity coming at you. Here's
Mm.
$100,000 deal. There's $1 million deal that's coming at you because you figured out how to not do everything, right? Because the last thing in life, you ran around with your head cut off, looking like a chicken, right? Looking like a chicken with your head cut off because you decided to do everything. Versus be more efficient and go get somebody to help you out. Go ask questions, talk to other mentors, talk to other peers, right? Be way more efficient. So now we're going to reward you. I'm going to reward you with said thing because you can handle it and manage it. And I think that's where we kind of miss the boat sometimes. It's just like, this is your test. And you're going to continue to like relearn this thing. I have to go through this process. If you don't learn like what you did last season, probably won't work for this season of life.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Is there any success stories? You don't have to use names, but are there any success stories that you just love to tell the story or that you're the most proud of that person and their ability to take coaching and where they started and where they ended up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll go most recent. It's fun to see him stepping into his superstardom right now. It's Tyrese Maxey, amazing, amazing human being. What you see is actually what you get. Great kid and a man now. To be able to work with him as a rookie and to see him, I think it's year 4, year 5 right now. And he's the number 2 guy on the team. They've got Joel still, so Joel's always going to be number 1. But like for him to go from being drafted, whatever number he was drafted at, and first round draft pick for sure, to stepping into the NBA, to it was wild. Like we had I think Ben Simmons as our point guard. Um, we had somebody else at the 2. Uh, Long story short, he was like the 4th, 5th option,
Mm.
maybe, right? Maybe even off the bench sometimes as a
So
rookie.
how did he move up?
Well, the chaos that happened throughout, his years, it kept forcing him to actually play more minutes. And
Mm.
so over the years, he went from being just a rookie that, you're supposed to play just a few minutes, you're not gonna play a whole lot, to being a guy that actually played like 40 minutes a night and physically had to still show up even though he didn't have the mileage on him, right?
Mhm.
It's like telling somebody, "Hey, go run a marathon, but I need you to like try to win it. And I know this is your first time," right? But doing that every night, night after night, and for him to be able to actually be so consistent in his own routine and receive information from myself, from other coaches. I know early on, Doc and Sam, um, Doc Rivers, our head coach, and Sam Cassell, our assistant, they were on him. Like they were on him daily about like, you got to show up this way, you got to do this, you got to do that. Um,
How
and
did he handle that pressure?
I mean, he showed up. He showed
Yeah.
up the best way he could, right? And again, he's been rewarded. Like I'll say this year when he got his really, really big deal, it was cool to see because it was just like, dude, I remember when they were taking you through the gauntlet because A, we had no choice because we didn't have certain players and you had to step in and go from playing, you were slotted at 20 minutes, but you were playing 45 minutes some nights in the regular season. Like to be able to show up night after night after night was pretty like awesome to see. And again, where he is now, physically, again, the dude has always been dialed in and really loves the work. So I knew that wasn't going to be an issue. It was
Yeah.
just making sure that his body and his mind could sustain, the ever-changing environment of like, you're now going to be, you go from being like the 6th guy on the team to like, you're the number 3, number 2 scorer. We actually need you to be the top dog tonight because this person's out, right? Like that right there mentally is a lot, especially when you have outside influence, which again, his family is amazing. So they do a great job of weeding through all the stuff so that he doesn't necessarily have to worry about all that. But I just think his story has just been super, super cool with, again, a lot of them have been amazing just to see. Just
Yeah.
the guys that, um, the guys that don't get over the hump, they typically, what I've learned is they never commit to what the people that have been there are trying to teach him. And it's not just coach.
Mm.
It's
Mm. They're not as coachable?
yeah, other players, yeah, not as coachable, and other players are trying to coach him, other tenured people that aren't necessarily like the head coach. You know, we had an athletic trainer that has been there forever, like 30 years. And I'm just gonna tell you, like, if somebody's been there that long and they drop, you know, a little nugget on you, you should grab it, say thank you, and run with it, right? Because it's probably gonna be helpful. And there's people that are just like, I got it. And it's just like, do you? Just because you never have done this before. So you can't have it just yet. So again, being available for all the coaching, all the support. Tyrese has done such a great job. And again, he's got, you know, a long run in him. And only in year 4, year 5, but he's definitely somebody that I would make sure that everybody pays attention to because he puts in the work on and off the court and just a great dude.
Yeah. How important was his rest schedule that you had him on?
Yeah, so that was the hard part. I'll say that was the one thing.
Because when you're feeling good, sometimes you don't know what could come, and, you know, I see a naturopath every few months, and, there's been you know, she always looks at my labs, but then she goes, "Well, but how are you feeling?" We've gotten to know each other well, and it was, like, 2 years ago, she goes, "Well, I got your results back," and I go, "How are they, Kirby?" And she's like, "Well, I wanted to ask you how you feeling." And I said and I just cut to the chase, and I said, "Well, Kirby, okay, well, I know you know me, and you're very kind, and you have permission now to speak openly. A lot of great things are happening in life,
Yeah.
and I believe that I'm running off of success and adrenaline and happiness.
Mm.
So, am I gonna fall off the cliff?" And she goes, "Yep, it's coming." And I'm like, "Okay, great." I said, "Okay, great. So hell, what do we need to do, right? What do we need to do?" So how was his and one of the things that she instituted for me was a full day of rest. And I was like, "Well, that's fine. I can, you know, I can lay on the couch and watch a movie or, you know, or I can lay on the couch and respond to emails." And she goes, "No, no, no, that's not rest." And I was like, and it's interesting now because I wear a Whoop and it's crazy like the amount of stress I can go through without physically moving my body. Like, I was like, "This thing's broken," when I first got because I don't read any directions, and I got it, and I was like, "How did my activity score? Like, how did my whatever
Right.
score,"
You
right?
stretch.
My strain, yeah. My strain score, how the hell is it 15? I haven't moved from this chair.
Is it
And
that?
then I was like, "Okay, let me see, is this thing broken?" Like, I don't wanna send a message to Whoop, and then they'll be like, "Actually, right?" So I was reading the metrics, and I was like, "Oh, I'm straining.
Yes.
I am straining myself. It's
Yeah.
not a physical thing."
Ex-
So she's like, "1 day of full, complete rest, Kristy, and that does not mean you go hike in the mountains. You are resting." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm sorry. Back to you and Tyrese and his rest schedule. Do you ever have to have those conversations?
Yes, because that's a great example, right? In helping people understand, like, sitting down, is a game just even sleeping longer, right? Staying
Ah,
in bed. Like, I struggle with that.
me too.
I'm still fired up, and I still like to wake up. I wake up super early, so I work out at 4 a.m. on some days,
Yeah,
and but I go to bed super early the day before,
me too, me too.
right? And so understanding that honestly, like you can't beat sleep, you can't beat rest. Your body needs it. So when you had those high strains, it was just your central nervous system being worked, right? And a lot of people don't realize like you're working, even if you're just sitting there thinking about certain things. My pastor the other day said doing a full sermon was like doing like a marathon or something like that. And I was like, man, I never even thought about it like that. But like he went to his doctors and his doctors were kind of trying to break down what's happening with his body and why is he feeling so fatigued and why he actually needs to train more is because he's now taking his body, his nervous system, through the
Mm.
whole process. And he does 2 in a day. So that's pretty much like a big pile on of stress. So again, with Tyrese, there was a window, again, after being around this for so long, you can kind of predict, you know, what's really going to happen. And
Yeah.
again, I saw it with when I was working with Dame and CJ and all the guys back in Portland. It's like, oh, shoot, right around game 25, these type of athletes need to be told, hey, this is coming.
Yeah.
Here's a card, pick something to do for rest or just amplify that a little bit. It's down to a science where like if a guy was less or more 2 pounds over or under, we can kind of predict like what was going to happen. And I remember one guy losing like 3 or 4 pounds early, and he's like, "Man, I feel great. I feel great." I'm like, "Cool, but you don't normally play at this weight, so just be prepared for new things to happen." And fast forward, he ends up having like an upper respiratory issue that kind of slowed him down for a few weeks. And so knowing like the rest and being the proper weight, being the proper size for whatever it is that you're doing in that moment is huge, especially when it comes to these guys. So again, with Tyrese, it was just saying, "Hey man, this is about to happen. I know you don't love off days because, this is what got you here, but what got you here won't get you to the next space." And one part is, again, him being, the great coachable athlete. He listened and received. And again, our massage therapist was hitting him with it. I was hitting him with it. Coaches were telling him that. Players were telling him that. And again, he's not going to be one that just fights against, the people that are actually there to help him succeed. And eventually he programmed it in so well where when we had like our off days, there were still like young guys coming in, but you wouldn't see him at all. He would either come in for like a quick massage or have somebody go to his house and just be at home doing what he needs to do. But it's something that if you're taking this serious, if you do want to be the best of the best, because that actually breeds all the other things. That's where the money comes in. That's where all the cool accolades start to happen. You have to take every part of that holistic approach as serious as you can, right? Maybe you don't know about it right away, but once you learn about it, it's on you to now schedule it in and just do better.
Yeah, and the value of having a mentor or coach, it came later in life for me. I didn't have any of that around. I was always curious and I love to learn but if it's easy to roll the movie back and be like, okay, I always gravitated, Ben, to people that were older than me. Always. Still to this day, 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. That's always I'm always with people that are 10 years older than me. And when they tell me what's coming next, I listen. I want to know, right? Like I'm like, okay, all right, now I can start to make a plan for this because I'm not going to be immune
No,
to any of this. So yeah, yeah.
nobody is. It's just, I always go back to like, be confident, but don't be egotistical. Don't let your ego take over. Be confident though, right? Like you're here for a reason, but like, don't let your ego block out, information that's consistently hitting you over the head. And I've seen that and it's unfortunate. I've seen some people, some players specifically that, could have had 10-year runs and made it maybe a year and a half, 2 years max, just because A, they did too much, off the court, or B, they really didn't take care of their bodies. And you're like, dude, man, like, I'm trying to tell you, you're not in college anymore. You're not the McDonald's All-American, kid, coming out of high school. Like, this isn't it. I get everybody told you that you were the thing back then, but like, these are grown men with full families. It's like,
Yeah,
David
a lot
Reagan
of
didn't run through.
responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility. So like,
Yeah.
listen to this person, right? Don't even listen to me. Listen to this person that is literally playing at the same level you're playing at, because they just want you to take advantage of your opportunities. So it's cool to hear when you say like 10 years older, they see something in you that they're like, hey, if you can actually figure this part out, it'll help you 10x and be at a way better pace than I was when I was your age. And so again, those are gems. I'll even say this: they're younger people that I've learned from. I learned from a lot of young folks, man. I'm so blessed to have access to that community still, right? And still be fit enough to kind of run with some of these young folks that I know have different thoughts, but have done some really cool things in their lives. And so I'm like, oh shoot, dude, teach me. Like
Yeah.
I'm coachable, and understand like there's things that I'm probably going to be like, I don't know if I really want to go down that road, but I like your thought on that, right? And I'll be able to actually pour into you as well, right? I've got a personal trainer now who I love working with. He's a dog as a coach. Like he takes me back to when I was like a freshman in college when I'm working out with him. And there's things that he needs to clean up as a strength coach. And so it's fun to kind of like support in those areas. But I'm like, hey man, like I need to push in other areas and you bring it out of me. So just continue to encourage people that sometimes don't think that they have the capacity to really move the needle for folks that are older than them
Yeah.
or more experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're doing that for him, and he's gonna the confidence is gonna grow for sure.
100%.
Yeah, that you're doing that. So, everything that you're saying. So I'm not an athlete. I mean, I do work out, but I nothing compared to you and also the people that you've been working with so far up into your career. However, everything you're saying lands. Everything you're saying, it's like it's totally transferable, and I'm so excited for this next chapter of your life
Yeah,
and how
thank
you're
you.
taking these principles to outside of the NBA. Can you talk a little bit about what you're up to?
Yeah, client performance coaching, baby. Whoa,
Go.
we're here. Yes. So I'm focused on helping high performers, executives, athletes still navigate obstacles and burnout. Right. I want them to be able to manage stress at a high level, and that's what I've done over the last 20 years. Is honestly the X's and O's of the weight room. That's one way of doing it. Mindset focus, being able to actually have these conversations and give routines that make sense for them, and then also being able to say, all right, there's a holistic approach to this, right? We're going to look at the core values, what's most important to us, what's our belief system, and then what are the things that we need from a what is it, mental and physical aspect to now improve that, right? So now as I step into this performance coaching for high level executives, I'm trying to do the same thing I did with athletes, right?
Yeah.
Take a big step back, look at their macro schedule, and just say, all right, when is the stress coming? How can we prepare for it,
Mhm.
right? What are you most focused on right now? What's most important to you? And then let's put a strategy together and let me give you the encouragement and support and mentorship that I know will work as long as you buy into it. And you buying into it is just you saying, hey, I really want to reach this goal because I know this goal can help X, Y, and Z. And I know for a fact I can actually help you get there because I've helped people get to their goals from being able to work with Hall of Famers, MVP, all these high level folks that have really set themselves up to be, the person for their family, the person for their business to move the needle. So again, client performance coaching for me is like the next big goal, a big step, because I've always wanted to build out like a performance company,
Yeah.
not just for myself, but for other strength coaches, other coaches that I know have um, a superpower to help and support through the skill sets and the talents that they have.
I love that. I love that everything you do is system based, and I feel like if if it can be simple and you know what to show up for, the system. If I'm hearing you correctly, with hyper, I mean it's the components are the same, but you're personalizing it to who you're talking to. The game's different. It's corporate or it's their own company or whatever it is. The game's different. Here's the components that we know that have been proven, both from Ben Kenyon and all your work, but also just performance coaching. Let's make this work, and you're such a trustworthy, like, kind I just feel your empathy coming through, and I know from being alongside of those people, I've been in that space for a long time, it's a lonely space, you don't know who to trust. It's very similar to athletes.
Yep, very
Yeah,
similar, and I think
yeah.
that's the part that to start with one-on-one, is definitely something I'm excited about because I don't know, to gain trust quickly is like the first hurdle that you do have to get over as a coach, right? They
1,000%.
have to understand that like you are really there to help them move the needle for their life. And then step two is now for them to trust themselves to commit to the process. And I think that's
Ooh,
where the
that's really
systematic
good.
approach
Yeah.
happens is just like, hey man, step one, let's just nail step one. What's most important to you?
How
Uh,
many people know that?
Know that step one,
That know what's most important to them?
not a lot of people do. Like again, high performers, I think for the longest they've had a goal or a dream that has been set and they just attack, right? And if you look at their attack list, it can be all over the place, right? And so it's figuring out how to now get that to be a little more focused and just say, hey, like, let's put these goals just on the back burner. We don't have to lose them. But I feel like if we just focus on these 3 to 4 buckets or even 2 to 3 buckets, this is going to enhance every opportunity that you get and allow you to really stay focused, and then we can actually start to create some routines, physically, mentally, that actually put you in the space to now fall or have overflow into other things. And I
Yeah,
think that's the part
yeah.
for me that I've seen a lot of success with is just my thoughts are everywhere. So my thoughts are actually here now. And oh my goodness, like I'm getting things done at a super high rate. Oh, goodness. Look what I'm doing now, pouring into family over here. Look what I'm doing now, pouring into friends over here. Oh, I've got space to now give back, right? So maybe I go, I've got a client that loves animals, loves dogs. And he ended up doing a whole, was it the Rocky Run out here, which is like a half marathon. And he raised like 15, 20 grand to give to an animal shelter out here.
Mhm.
I was like, dude, like, look at the space. Look what space is giving you time to now do, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this dude's performing at a super high level when it comes to like getting things done financially and getting things done with work. But to now have space to train, right? To get a personal trainer, to get his nutrition dialed in, to get all those things and understand what trimming the fat looks like for him.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta let certain things go. And that's where I come in just to say, like, hey, honestly, was that an old systematic approach that you had to have all these things going on? Like, can we just maybe put that on the back burner for right now so that we can just focus on this and then fast forward, look what that actually allowed you to do and the impact it helped with, this animal shelter that was kind of going out of business and you just gave it an influx, right? Of set dollars and maybe somebody matched that. And now that positive energy gets to flow back into what you're doing. So again, being able to kind of sit down, my buddy always explained working with NBA players is kind of like you're sitting, if you get to their house and sit down with them, you're sitting in the lion's den.
Mm.
Being able to actually sit down with a lion and tell them like, it's going to be all right. You don't have to go out and destroy everything. Right. The king, you're going to be super good. Right. But you got to understand the process of it. And you have
Yeah.
to kind of, they have to see that you're hungry as well, but they
Yeah.
really have to see that you're leading by example. And so I think that's the big part about what I'm doing now is I'm just continuing to lead by example. I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to push. Obviously, I want my company to be the best performance company it could possibly be, but understanding there's a process to it and knowing like I have to be able to now pick my places where I work, pick my places where I rest, and be very aware of what's necessary now and what's not necessary that I used to do maybe in the last chapter, right?
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that people maybe don't realize it, but that you're granting them permission, like giving themselves permission to whether it's say goodbye to certain people or not do certain things or not do things out of guilt. You ever find that like you ever find that they already knew the answer, but you just helped them realize that it's okay?
Yeah, a lot of the times they have the answer, they say the answer.
Yeah.
And it's now kind of on me to say like, well, here's some options on how you can now step into it. Again, what feels the best for you, but here let's have autonomy, right? This doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a rigid way. Some people want that.
Yeah.
Some people want like the drill sergeant. I'm
Tell
not
me what to
the drill
do.
sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me what to do.
Hmm.
That's not like my style all the time.
Yeah.
Unless I really have to kind of go down that road. But a lot of the times, I just ask a whole bunch of questions, and the questions now pull out, all the different answers that they've already had. And I think it's just also being a sounding board, right?
Mhm.
I think that's a part of my superpowers is just being a good listener and just saying like, here's what you just told me,
Yeah.
and here's what I'm hearing from like everything that you just shared. And you just shared the actual system that's going to allow you to now have, success in 2025. Let's just write it down and figure out what that really looks like on paper.
Mhm.
But like you did that. Again, you're a superstar. You're a superhero, right? I tell people all the time, like I love working with superheroes because they're already got the cape on. They're taking off. They're doing it. It's just sometimes they don't realize um, their superpowers and all the things that they actually had to give because there's not, again, the loneliness piece. There's nobody or the people that are there
Don't see it.
or they're there for sometimes the wrong reasons. And so they're not trying to cultivate that. They're just trying to kind of take from that opportunity. And again, where I'm at as a coach, is I want to cultivate, right? I want to continue to water the things that I know are going to help. And so I have to be able to now have you declare that. And then once you declare it, it's easy for me to be like, all right, well, this is how we water it. And if I continue to go down that road, sweet. But if that doesn't feel good, here's some other options. Let's kind of go back and forth through that.
Yeah. You are gonna explode in this new chapter, my friend. I am so excited for you. What does success mean to you right now?
Success right now, honestly, it was like stopping, being still. The transition, because I'm still in my transition, right? Of stepping away from the Sixers and now stepping into about to launch, client performance coaching. What I had to really master in this moment, in this transition, was like learning how to actually like be still. Coming from a season of life that was kind of like a let's hurry up to get there. Let's hurry up. Like, what are we doing? Let's go. And that's the system. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But that was ingrained into my nervous system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was something that I naturally would just wake up and do. Right. And I would be in a rush a lot of times. And so success for this moment today is just saying like, oh, shoot, I can actually just sit down. You worked out today. You've checked off a couple of different boxes. You don't have to be over here or over there. Like, you can actually just sit down and just be, because that gives me way more space and time now to reflect and think about maybe the next steps, or just put on a TV show real quick, just to kind of zone me out, just hang out, right?
Yeah.
That for me is something that I know is going to help me in this next chapter, because it's again, leading by example, continuing to help people understand that like, we don't have to do the 100 task list, 100 thing list that we have on a day-to-day basis to move the needle. Some days it might be 2 things, some days it might be 3, some days you might have to get a lot done, but it's just understanding how to be still. So again, being still, being aware of what makes sense for me, I think is going to be or is true success.
Yeah, I love that. And the lesson in there that I hear is that, it's, you see, the definition of success can be different depending on the season of life that you're in. And it wasn't, this is a new one. And I think that's great for everybody who's listening, that, what does success mean for you right now in your life? And same for me. I was corporate America, and it was the cars, the trips, the this, the that, and a lot of ego-focused success. And I will still say all those things are important to me. I enjoy them, but it's the feelings of the peace and the happiness and the joy and being where my feet are. Like, that's the true definition of success. And that if I don't feel it, or somebody's bringing out things that aren't, it's like, no, man, no. Like, where is it? And I'm going to zap it. Like, no freaking way. You're out of here. And maybe it's me. Maybe I need to have a conversation with myself. But it has been such a joy having you here. I'm so excited for you to speak at the Success Unleashed Summit on
Great.
January 21st through 24th. You are amazing, Ben. Where can people find you if they want your coaching or want to learn more or buy your book?
Yeah, so clientperformancecoaching.com is up and running already, so you can definitely tap in over there. And then on Instagram, Ben Kenyon, and LinkedIn as well. And then I think my book is greatdaytoclimb.com. So, but Instagram, LinkedIn, if you reach out, I'll definitely ping you back. I'm super active on those 2 platforms.
Yes, you are. And I'll put everything in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Kristy.